Investigators are looking for a motive in the death of a synagogue president. Samantha Wool was found stabbed to death outside her Detroit home. Police say they found a trail of blood leading to her home where they believe the crime happened. CNN's chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst John Miller is joining us to discuss. So disturbing, John. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has assigned Michigan State Police to assist the local Detroit police, and now the FBI is also assisting in the investigation into Samantha Wool's death. What does that tell you?
Well, not a surprise. Samantha Wool was a well-known and influential figure in the Jewish community of Detroit, personal friends with the Attorney General. So they are looking very closely at the obvious burning question, which is, does her brutal murder have anything to do with events unfolding on the other side of the world and calls for violence against Jewish leaders and Jewish institutions? So far, Wolf, no indication there. You have a crime where she is at her condominium, and the LaSalle condominiums in Lafayette Park. No forced entry, apparently, is what we are told at the scene. The crime occurs inside her apartment, and she flees bleeding from the apartment. A trail of blood leads to where her body was found. So the questions are, was an attacker somebody who pushed in behind her as she came home? Was the attacker already inside the apartment? Was it someone she knew? Was it a stranger? To put that together, they're going over her cell phone records, looking for video in the area in a canvas that they hope will show them who was coming and who was going at the time. But so far, nothing to point to any connection to any of the events on the other side of the world.
How though do the escalations in Israel right now in Gaza complicate potentially this investigation?
Well, it complicates the tensions in Detroit, which is very much like New York or Los Angeles, which has a large Arab American community, a large Jewish community, and those tensions are being felt in the streets, especially as we're seeing bombing continue, hostages being held, people being killed.
Let me also ask you about various law enforcement agencies, as you well know, across the country right now, being on a higher state of alert for what they call lone offenders inspired by the Israel-Hamas war. This week, the New York Police Department ordered all officers, for example, to report in uniform and be prepared for deployment. So what does that tell you, John?
That tells me that law enforcement in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, across the country in the major cities are reacting to the meetings they've been holding with their intelligence commanders, trying to assess what is it we have to be ready for. Certainly, as we saw in New York over the last hours, protests in the street where there were clashes with police, 22 arrests with pro-Palestine demonstrators in the Bay Ridge section of Brooklyn, but also being ready for the potential of something happening that is unscheduled. Hamas has never called for attacks on U.S. soil before, but we've seen a deluge of these threats coming from ISIS, coming from Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda re-released every issue of Inspire magazine online. These are rife with instructions on how to commit terrorist attacks. ISIS called for practical ways to support the Palestinian people, in their words, in articles in their magazine, Al-Naba, by their leader, Qureshi, talking about attacks on Jewish people, Jewish economic interests, Jewish nightclubs, synagogues across the world. So police are trying to figure out how to have as many people in uniform, in reserve, no matter what their assignment is, in case they have to be called out in the event of either civil disorder or an attack.
John Miller reporting for us. John, thank you very, very much. And to Samantha Wool's family, our deepest, deepest condolences. May she rest in peace, and may her memory be a blessing.